That's still Colin singing "You Can't Hurry Love." I heard this one earlier this week, and I thought, kind of appropriate. I was actually looking for something else, but nothing was leaping out at me. But that's what's going on. So, hey, welcome to a brand new episode of Dylan Knows, episode 336, Valentine's After Party. Originally, I was going to do this show tomorrow. Due to circumstances, we were supposed to be going to my sister-in-law's house tonight, but they decided to not have the party we were going to have. So we ended up just having a kind of a free day, which is good since I'm feeling better. I've had a rough couple days, sickness-wise, as it were, and feeling better. I mean, good enough that we actually got to go out and I got to see Wicked, which I had bought for my wife for our anniversary back in October. So that was good, and it was fantastic. The version we saw was down at the Hippodrome. Cover that a little bit later in the show, but it was fantastic. And also, I figured, got nothing else going on, so I figured, let's get this over with because I'm exhausted from my fighting my sickness, and now my stomach is feeling a little off. Because we went to an Italian restaurant for dinner tonight, and I had my favorite, a little bit rich in the sauce though, that messed with my stomach a little bit. Gnocchi was what it was. So just really tired. It's been a weird week, and so next week is looking to be about the same. Next weekend, I'll probably be on Saturday again because my wife and daughter will be caving with the Scouts, and my son and I will be home, and I'll get him to bed and do my show as usual Saturday night. So that's what we should be doing. So what do we got today? We got my my Oscar follow-up. Last week was the Oscars. I did my Oscar show and did okay. Worse than last year, but not bad. I'll let you know how well I did. We're going to talk about setting up rooms, those idiots in the White House. I finished my second book of the year, and I'm going to do a slight review of that. Godzilla stuff, Jenga stuff, some local news. We'll get into a little bit with the Astros fracas. You might be surprised about where I'm going to come from here. A lot of weird cat stuff going on. Kevin Smith reveals the vocal cast for his Masters of the Universe cartoon on Netflix, and it's a doozy. Finland is in the story twice, is in the stuff this week. My Wicked review, chicken scented shoes is a new thing. Jojo Rabbit's in the news as well. Dancing bears in real life. Pokemon Go Valentine's Day event. More animal stuff. Again, I don't have any stupid people stuff, so the stupid people have been sort of calming their tits a little bit lately. So that's about it. Anything interesting else going on? Rick Moranis is coming back to acting, which I think is great after a long hiatus. So let's just get started here. Sorry, my throat's still a little from my illness this weekend, or this last couple days. So let's begin with my Oscar win here. I went 17-7, which is one less than I did last year. So I did 18-6 last year. This year I did 17-7. So let's just get on these real quick. Best Actor Supporting Role was Brad Pitt. Bombshell won for makeup and hairstyling. Little Women won for costume design. American Factory won documentary feature. Ford vs. Ferrari won sound editing. 1917 won sound mixing. Production design was won by Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. International feature was won by Parasite. Actor supporting role was won by Laura Dern. Animated short film was Hair Love, which surprisingly enough was a former Baltimore Raven, my football team, a member of my football team, actually was the one who created it. So it was kind of neat to see a Raven connection. I had that story later on in the show, but I'll get to that. I'll find that again, and I'll just cross it off. Oh, there it is. Former Raven wins Oscar for the best short film, which was Hair Love. And I saw in the bookstore recently that his book is out as well, which is the book of the animated short film Hair Love. Animated feature film was Toy Story 4, which I probably should have voted for. My grades would have been what they were last year, but I really wanted Klaus to win. I thought it might win. Visual effects, 1917 won, so Avengers Endgame got shut out. Oh, well. Film editing, Ford versus Ferrari won. Documentary short subject, learning to skateboard in a war zone if you're a girl. Live action short film was The Neighbor's Window. Adapted screenplay was Jojo Rabbit. Yay! Original screenplay, Parasite. Cinematography, 1917. Original score, Joker. Original song, I'm Gonna Love Me Again from Rocket Man. Best director was Surprise, Bong Joon-ho for Parasite 1 of Sam Mendes' 1917. Actor in leading role, Joaquin Phoenix won for Joker. Actress in leading role, Renee Zellweger won for Judy. And the big surprise of the night, Best Picture went to Parasite and not 1917. So Parasite becomes the first international feature, because it was foreign film beforehand, was the first international feature winner, the first international feature to win Best Picture. So it did really well. Now, I was kind of a little angry because I wanted 1917 to win. Everybody on Twitter was so excited that Parasite won. I mean, they were like freaking out, like the whole world's changing now. Yes, it's a South Korean director and film, and I can see maybe why they're excited, but it just, I still don't quite get it, because the storyline just is about, rich versus poor, a poor family wheels their way into the house of a rich family. When the rich family goes away, they live it up in the rich house, but discover a secret in the basement, and then all hell breaks loose, stuff like that. I've never been a big international feature film watcher anyway. I know I should probably give it some of it a chance, which I do sometimes. And everybody loves Bong Joon-ho, or Ho, or whatever. What's his name again? I'm going to get this right so I don't sound like I'm racist here. Bong Joon-ho. Yep. So I was kind of surprised that everybody was so excited that it won. I wrote down a couple thoughts that, during the week as it progressed, it doesn't really affect me as much as it did after the show. The Parasite one was, it was, rich versus poor people. Class warfare had to do with people sticking it to, were they so happy that it was sticking it to Trump because of, a foreigner won the best picture in Hollywood about immigration and rich versus poor and stuff like that. Was everyone happy because it was a slap against Weinstein, who screwed up the release of Bong Joon-ho's Snowpiercer that everybody loves in the world. And was it just fake news about people saying that they weren't going to vote for Parasite because they didn't want to read subtitles? I mean, that was the big thing. Was, what were they trying to get people to, cheer it on and say, well, there's these, uncouth Americans who refuse to read, this subtitles. They're not going to vote for Parasite, so we should vote for Parasite. To stick it to them. Is that what it was? Because what they do is they do the nominations and they vote again. So that story comes out, and then the Hollywood elite are like, oh, we can't have that, so we're going to vote for Parasite just to stick to these people who say they don't want to read subtitles. Is that maybe why it won? I honestly have no desire to see this movie. I looked through some of Bong Joon-ho's other stuff. Some of his stuff sounds interesting. Memories of Murder and Mother, and the one about the giant pig that was on Netflix. And so there's some interesting ones. And, I've been intrigued about why everyone liked Parasite so much, but I don't quite get it. And it just got me to thinking, is that maybe what part of their plan, as I said, with this fake news about saying that, the week that everyone was voting, that people weren't going to vote for Parasite because they didn't want to read the subtitles, and they just want to say, well, we better show the world that we're not uncouth Americans, and they voted for Parasite instead of what they might have wanted to vote for. I don't know. And then everybody was so excited. It's just, I feel like over this issue and the issue with the Astros was getting a little bit later, I feel like I'm a minority in a lot of stuff like that. But regardless, congratulations. He was a very funny, had some very funny speeches, and everyone seemed so excited that they won. I mean, people of color won, after everyone saying, how white the Oscars were, that a person of color won, and a foreigner won the big awards and stuff like that. So I don't know. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way after the show happened. And also the opening of the film of the Academy Awards was, I guess, making a statement about films with people of color and women in it, because they had characters and stuff like that from films that were done by people of color and women that were not nominated, like Midsummer and Dolomite and stuff like that. They had stuff like that pop up, and was that sort of a stick it to the Academy sort of thing as well? I'm not sure. This Academy Awards was boring to me a little bit, which I'm surprised, considering that for the first time in a long time, I had a bunch of horses in the race that I wanted to win, and I watched it because I'd seen most of these movies, so I felt good about that. Plus, Eminem's appearance, singing a song live that won the Oscar 18 years ago. Why did he come and do it live? The only thing I can think of is when he actually won the Oscar 18 years ago, he didn't show up because he didn't think he was going to win. So he never did a performance of it. I mean, it was a great performance and all that, but the show just seemed to be stale and boring and not very exciting and not very funny. And it just, I don't know, it just seemed bleh. So we'll see. I've been looking at some of the pictures. I mean, it's still early, obviously. A lot of the ones coming out in the fall haven't even popped up in the film festivals yet and haven't even been introduced yet. So there might be some other big stuff up. But honestly, there's really not a lot that I'm looking. I don't foresee this year watching a bunch of films that could vie for Best Picture, because there really doesn't seem to be anything rolling through. That's as of February 15th. So we'll see. That might change. And obviously, it's only a month and a half into the new year. So we'll find out for sure. So I just seemed a little. I mean, it's great that a person of color, foreigner, whatever, won these awards, stuff like that. But I just found it to be just a little jarring that everybody was freaking out about how excited they were. And after reading the description of the film, it sounds boring to me. But that's just me, of course, obviously. And it also just gets me wondering if these film fans or whatever are just into these types of films because they feel they should be, because that's what all the elites are saying. You need to like these films, so they say, "Oh yeah, I love these films," even though they might not like them in the end. Now, as I said, I haven't seen any of his films. I've read the descriptions of all the films that he's released, and some are interesting, but at the same time, they all seem to have a kind of weird, bizarre thing about them, and it just doesn't seem like a type of film that I might really be interested in. There's some really interesting ideas, but then they throw other things in there, and it just doesn't seem right. I don't know. So there's the Oscar. So we'll see where we are next year. So next year at this time, I'll be doing my Oscar show again, and I'll be talking about things, and we'll see. Maybe I would have seen more of the films that are coming up, but honestly, right now, I don't see anything jumping out of me that I'm dying to see that might be an Oscar nominee. So we'll see what happens. February 10th was Stand Up Your Broom Day, because NASA said that the gravitational pull was special. Now, the funny thing about that is that it was a big hoax, because you can stand your broom up anytime you want. And luckily, a lot of social media said, don't believe any of this stuff. NASA didn't say this, and so on and so forth. Someone else just made this up for whatever reason. There is no special gravitational pull that allows for this one day of the year or ever for brooms to stand up straight. You can stand up broom straight any time of the year, and people were showing how you could do it other times of the year and stuff like that. So it just seemed an interesting sort of thing to do that. The genius in the White House said in a press conference this week, the heat of April will kill the coronavirus, which is a bunch of bullshit. You're a stupid ass moron who declared himself king today as well, and is slowly turning this, government into a dictatorship, and nobody gives a rat's ass, and it's pissing me off. And I think it's causing me this anxiety and just this constant feeling of dread and ennui and stuff like that, that's just making me just grumpy all the time. I don't know. I just want this over with, and I want everything to get back the way it was, but it's never going to, because that's just the way it is. I'm sorry. I'm also tired out of my mind. So I just keep saying stupid stuff like that, and no one follows up with it or mentions it, and just brushes it off as like, oh, it's normal things. It's not normal. And this needs to stop now. And people need to start doing something now and not waiting for November, because it's not going to be a fair election in November either. So, we got to start doing stuff now to get this country back to where it is. And I don't know what that is, short of just declaring full-on war, but that's just me right now. On a lighter note, Jenga's in this week's episode twice. Jello shot Jenga is the thing. Jenga's the game where you pull bricks out of a tower and hope that doesn't fall. And then if you pull the brick out that causes the tower to fall, it's your fault, and it's the end of the game, stuff like that, and you lose. But they now have Jello shot Jenga, which is a thing where you pull the thing out, which is a flat rectangular thing, and they have Jello shots in it. You take a Jello shot there and there, and you get drunk while playing Jenga, which is be kind of interesting to see how that turns out. Also, Godzilla is always been hugely popular, but now it has been taken over for Monopoly. There's Godzilla Monopoly coming, and a Godzilla Jenga set coming as well. So keep your eyes out on those things as well. We got our first look at Robert Pattinson in his Batman logo and his Batman costume. We got his head and cowl. It's in this orangey sort of Daredevil-esque looking thing, but he looked pretty good to me. I thought it looked pretty good. We just got his face with the cowl on, and then we got his chest with the bat symbol on it, and that was really about it. So that was kind of cool. The second book I finished this week was about the Western gunslinger Wild Bill. He's actually the first major gunslinger before the Wyatt Earps and stuff like that, because he was before their time. And it was a great story written by Tom Clavin, who I talked about a couple weeks ago when I finished up, maybe last week when I finished up Dodge City. So finished up Wild Bill this week, and it was fantastic. It was a great exploration of a person you might have just heard about briefly. A lot of these characters, Wild Bill and Calamity Jane and Annie Get Your Gun, Annie Oakley, I should say is her name, Buffalo Bill Cody, Pat Masterson, Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, all these guys, they were, and girls, they were raised up because back in the 1800s, the best entertainment, there wasn't a lot of movies, and movies hadn't even been invented yet, television hadn't been invented yet, computer hadn't been invented yet. There was some stage shows, there were some traveling shows, which Buffalo Bill Cody was a big part of as well, as was Wild Bill's future wife was involved in that as well. And Wild Bill himself was involved in one of those as well. But there was pulp novels written about the Wild West because the people back east didn't know what was going on out west. They had heard stories about how lawless it was because, let's face facts, in the 1880s, after the Civil War, we were still colonizing out west. So it was still a wild, rough and tumble place with the railroad just being, and cattle drives and cowboys and gunslingers and prostitutes, or soiled doves as they were called. And, all kinds of, and whiskey and prostitution and bar fights and horse rustling and train robberies and all kinds of crazy stuff. And the people back east would eat this stuff up. So people would write pulp novels about these characters, telling maybe some of their true stories, but also making up and embellishing some of the stories, and turn them into mythological sort of heroes. And the gunslingers really didn't do anything to um, say no, this is wrong, because they knew that this would cause fear in the people who might be attempting to say, if I kill Wyatt Earp, if I kill Wild Bill Hickok or whatever, I'll be famous and stuff like that. But then they start reading these stories about how Wild Bill Hickok took on 5 guys with one gun and killed all of them without anyone shooting at him. And everyone's like, oh, wait a second, maybe we shouldn't worry about that. So just kind of interesting theory about him. But then we also get what actually happened with him. And, he has an interesting life, and he actually started suffering from glaucoma when he got older. So it became harder for him to see. And, most of the heroes I've read, because Dodge City had Bat Masterson and Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday in it, a lot of them, they were all into the whiskey and gambling. All of them were, and even Wild Bill was that way too. The main takeaway I get from it was because of these pulp novels, and there have even been some movies and TV shows that have been made now in the 20th century and 21st century so much, but in the 20th century, there have been TV shows and movies and comic books about these characters as well, continuing to build the mythology up. And one of the biggest things, which we find out in this book, is the whole Wild Bill Calamity Jane crossover, because there was a movie came out in the mid 90s called Wild Bill, starred Jeff Bridges and Ellen Barkin, and actually David Arquette was in it as well. And it was about Wild Bill's last days and stuff like that, and how he and Calamity Jane had this torrid affair and all this stuff. And the truth that comes out in Tom Clavin's book, because he's done the research, is that that was all a bunch of BS, bunch of bullshit. Wild Bill Hickok despised Calamity Jane, and he only met her because they were doing a wagon train into Deadwood, South Dakota, I guess is where that one is. And she was the best person for the job, and she's had her own career, but she was always one to be a big liar. She always dressed as a man so that she could, do men's stuff, but then when she was discovered, she would have to do other things to get back into it. She'd have to make up stories. She'd have to do all kinds of stuff to keep going. And eventually, as I said, these stories got out to the pulp fiction, the pulp novels, and people truly believe that they wanted a romance between two of these characters. And since Wild Bill and Calamity Jane had crossed paths, and Calamity Jane, actually, she went out of her way to say that she had these affairs with Wild Bill, which were not true, by the way, because at this time, Wild Bill was completely devoted to his wife, who he met late in life and had never really had a major relationship up until that point. And he was just trying to get her a better life. So while she was back with her family, while he was trying to get them a better life by going to Deadwood, where a gold rush was happening, and the whole thing with Calamity Jane came out. And unfortunately, Deadwood is also where Wild Bill met his end. With his glaucoma, he was having trouble seeing, but he still liked to play cards. And so the one thing he loved to do is he always would sit in a specific spot to make sure that he could view everybody coming in and no one could sneak up on him. That's the way he always was. But with the glaucoma, it was getting harder to see, but he still wanted to do that. So he was at a card game with a bunch of cowboys, and one cowboy just lost his shirt, just had a string of bad luck. And Wild Bill knocked him out of the game. And so Wild Bill felt bad for him. So he gave him some money, said, here, man, here's some stuff for breakfast. And, come back when you can play better, something like that. He might have made a little snide remark, but I don't think he didn't say it mean or anything like that. He gave the kid some money to come so that he'd have something to eat next morning. But this kid was young and he was seething with anger. So he wanted to get revenge on Wild Bill. So the next day, Wild Bill was enter the bar and wanted to find a game, and there was only one going on, and the seat that was open was the seat that he didn't like to sit in. And so he tried to get someone else to change with him, but they were refusing to change with him because they were having a lucky streak in that seat. So Bill reluctantly said, okay, fine. I will excuse me, I will sit here and play the cards. Meanwhile, this kid was able to sneak in to the bar, and because his eyes weren't as good, and also he couldn't really see everything around him. He didn't see the kid sneaking over to him, and then went behind his back and shot him in the back. And the card hand he had in his hand is the dead man's hand, which you've heard about. If anyone says this is dead man's hand, that's where the name comes from. So as a so they decide to, for whatever reason, they decided to bury him in Deadwood. I don't know why they didn't ship him down to where his wife was. I don't know why that happened. They just said they buried him in Deadwood. So then, stories went out, and Calamity Jane jumped on the bandwagon and said, yeah, I chased him because he was my lover and all that stuff, and I chased down that killer, which wasn't true. And all these stories came out, and eventually his wife actually died. And his wife had been married before, and she had a long marriage to someone, but he died before she even met Wild Bill. So she ended up getting buried next to her first husband, who she loved, just as much as she loved Wild Bill. And so once Calamity Jane died, his buddies who knew the real story about Wild Bill and Calamity Jane, knowing how Wild Bill detested her, decided to play one last practical joke on Wild Bill, because Wild Bill was a huge practical joker. So they buried Calamity Jane next to Wild Bill, and that's where the story continues to grow. So it's not a true story about Wild Bill and Calamity Jane, which is why when I read this book, my first thought after I finished reading it is like, damn, I should make this into a movie. I'd love to write the screenplay, maybe even a 2 movies or whatever. And it was just so, Tom Clavin just writes so well and is so interesting, and the stuff just was outstanding for me, and I loved it. So if you get a chance, I was just in the bookstore this week. It appears that Wild Bill is now available in softcover. It was not when I bought this originally, because it was still fairly brand new. Tom Clavin's new book will be out in April. It's called Tombstone, and it's going to be about Tombstone and Wyatt Earp and the OK Corral shootout and the Vengeance Ride. So that's going to be more of a Wyatt Earp centric one, but still could be interesting to read. Because that's what the Old West was about. The cities. Deadwood and Dodge City and Tombstone and Abilene and crazy places like that. And that was where those were, and all the criminals were. So it's a great story, good fast read. Enjoyed it immensely. A couple local news stories. First, we have something downtown called Power Plant Live, which is a bunch of bars. They're all within this one area, and people can walk between, and there's bands and stuff like that. Well, one of the bars down there is more for older people, called Howl at the Moon, and Dawn and I have been there a couple times before. And it's a piano bar where piano players play people's dedications or whatever, and sometimes help sing along, stuff like that. It was a fun time. Well, Howl at the Moon will be closing at Power Plant Live, which is a shame, I guess, because it's more, as I said, draws more of an older crowd, and the Power Plant Live is more of a young, early 20s hookup sort of, let's get as drunk as possible, listen to the music that's popular now so we can dance sexily to try to get good time, stuff like that. So Howl at the Moon wasn't really like that, so I guess that might be one of the reasons why it finally is collapsing, but that's closing, which is that's kind of a shame. Because it was a fun little place, but it was downtown. It was in that area where it's always crazy busy, and there's all kinds of craziness happening down there, and young people and insanity. And I can kind of understand why it might not have succeeded as well. So it's a shame, though. And the other local news is kind of interesting. The local golf course near us is called Cave, and it's going to be hosting the BMW Championship, which is a PGA tournament. And it'll be the first PGA tournament that Caves has held in 60 years. Now, the LPGA, the Ladies Pro Golfers Association, they had one of their championships come to Caves about 5 years ago, I guess. So it's not like Caves is unknown. It's a known quantity. It's just it hasn't been used as often. So the fact that they got the BMW Championship, which means you're going to get some of the big golfers here, and this is until next year. So it's 2021's BMW Championship, but you'll get probably a lot of the a lot of the PGA tournament guys that you see all the time at the Masters, stuff like that. Maybe Tiger Woods, I don't know. Maybe he'll decide to do this, or he might skip it. I don't know. It's up to Tiger. You know, we can't. We'll invite everyone we want to, but you might get, you know, Rory McIlroy and all these guys who, you know, the big golfers will be at this PGA tournament because the BMW Championship is a big one, I think, on the tour. So it's also a way to get you into the Masters and stuff like that. So it should be interesting. We'll hear more about that when it gets closer to time, but it's not till 2021. So we still got about a year to go before it actually happens. But still, the fact is that it is going to happen, and that's awesome. So that's really cool. A lucky diver catches pictures of the only pink manta ray in existence and posted it on Facebook, and it's adorable. Lowe's, which I don't know if you guys all have, because this is also kind of local news, but I didn't put it into local news because I thought Lowe's might be a more countrywide company. It's like a Home Depot or something like that. But Lowe's is recalling 70,000 ceiling fans because the blades can become dangerous projectiles. That just freaks the hell out of me. Your fan's going in your room, and all of a sudden it breaks apart and goes and smashes into the wall or cuts off or whatever. It'd be absolutely insanity. So if you got a Lowe's ceiling fan, you will probably need to get that either looked at or turned in for a new one or whatever, or you know how it goes when you have recalls. So definitely worth it because it could be different. The difference between life and death and could be dangerous. Harry Potter continues to fascinate people. This time, there's a Harry Potter murder mystery on a Napa Valley wine train. So, you know, these Napa Valley wine trains they have all kinds of tours that you can do train-wise, and they do, some of these do mystery train things like Agatha Christie stuff like that. Well, now they're doing a Harry Potter murder mystery on one of these trains that rides through Napa Valley. So if you're interested in Napa Valley trains and Harry Potter, well, there you go. It could be some good for you. NASA cleaned up the pale blue dot pic, which was taken by Voyager this week, 35 years ago or something like that. It's the picture that shows the Earth as a very tiny blue dot, and it led Carl Sagan to write his book, Pale Blue Dot or something like that, about Earth's, you know, how we seem to be the way we are. We feel that we are the center of the universe. We're the only planet that we know of right now that has life. And this, you know, shows how minuscule we are in the scheme of things. It is a small, tiny dot. And it's kind of neat and kind of good thing to focus on that. But the interesting thing is, even though to us right now, we believe we are the only ones on the planet, there are radio telescopes that are sending out constant messages to try the planet. There are radio telescopes that are sending out constant messages to try to find the possibility of life to get an answer. Well, recently, radio telescope has been picking up the same signal from the same spot in deep space that repeats every 16 days. It repeats the exact same message every 16 days. Now, it's just right now a bunch of beeps and stuff like that, so they don't know what is, because that's just the information being processed in the computer. They've got to figure out a way to see if there's a way to decode it or what is actually causing it. The fact that it's a steady, every 16 days, same message from the same spot leads it to believe that, you know, it could be something orbital, that it orbits, if it's a star or whatever, that sends off this weird vibe or signal every 16 days because it's rotating its sun or whatever, or that's the way its rotation is every 16 days. That might be possible. But the fact is, it's a constant 16 days from the same spot. So this could be the first real possibility there might be something else out there. Again, we don't know much about it right now. To be continued. I'm sure we'll hear more about it because the story just broke this week. So we'll see what happens about that. And one more space story, Betelgeuse. I talked about this a while back. Betelgeuse, one of the stars in Orion, is actually the one that's dimming. I thought I might have said it was Sirius, but I think Betelgeuse is the one that's actually dimming, because they said that it still is dimming, but only a part of it is. And that's kind of a weird thing as well. So they're keeping an eye on that as well, because there's always a possibility that we may eventually see a supernova from either Sirius or Betelgeuse, whatever. I guess right now they're saying Betelgeuse is the one that's having this problem that could be collapsing in on itself. For light to travel to us, the light we're seeing in the stars now are millions of years old. So if we actually went out there in real time and discovered it in real time, it would be gone at this time, probably. Just a matter of finding, where it is and stuff like that. So if it does go supernova, you're going to kind of want it to happen in the winter, because Orion is visible on the northern hemisphere, which is where we are, during the winter. If it happens during the summer, which would be where it's in the southern hemisphere where it's winter, we will not see the supernova until it makes its way back around. And even then, we probably won't even see it. We'll just see that one of the stars is missing from Orion. That must be continued also. Chocolate, peanut butter, banana split ice cream from Ben & Jerry's is a new thing. It's been released. Sprite is getting into the ginger ale stuff by creating Sprite with ginger. I don't know. We'll see how that works. See if it can make any inroads into the ginger ale trade. We'll see. IKEA is selling a hydroponic system that allows vegetables to be grown all year round. That's good for people who own restaurants or want fresh vegetables all year round and not just during the summer when it grows well. So that's kind of cool that that's available now. Paper mache masks, which are created by artist Liz Sexton, brings animals to human scale. So you get animals that might be this big, like snails and stuff like that, built the size of a mask over someone's head, so you get to see it in good close-up detail. Stranger Things released a teaser and surprisingly answered one of the questions that the season 3 finale brought up. Is Hopper still alive? And the answer is yes. He appears at the very end of the teaser working with the Russians. If you saw Stranger Things 3, you know how and why. When they mentioned to bring out the American, they believed it was Hopper. Well, now we know for sure it is. And also the other rumors now, because Hopper, it's a shaved head. But because it's snowing, people are wondering if he's trapped in the Upside Down, and they're actually in the Upside Down, and the Russians are trying to colonize the Upside Down or whatever. So we'll see more about Stranger Things 4 down the line. We'll get the I'm sure we'll get when they come up with when the when the release date is. They usually do the names of the episodes, so they'll probably be doing that soon, but they just want to get that teaser out there and get people excited about it. Now there are people complaining, they're like, well, you've just ruined the biggest surprise of the show, is that, well, now he knows he's alive. Well, maybe, but it still puts in a lot of questions, like how did he get there? What is he doing there? How are they going to get him out? Is he actually in the real world? Was he in the Upside Down? What's going on with that? So there's still lots of questions going on. And who knows? That might not actually be the Hopper we know and love. It might be some other version of him or something else. Who knows the way Stranger Things is. So, and everybody pretty much knew that Hopper was coming back. I mean, the actor David Harbour said he was already signed on for the next season. And it was like the world's worst kept secret that he was the one that they were talking about at the end of the third season. So we'll see what happens. But it's a good little teaser trailer and something different that Stranger Things has done. They usually don't do that. They usually do the chapter titles first when they say the release date, and then they show the first trailer. But this was just a teaser trailer. So they're trying to mix things up a little bit. Oregon is the only state that allows you to smell your weed before you can buy it. I guess Oregon has legalized marijuana. I must have missed that. But yeah, that's the one state where you can actually go into a marijuana store and you can sniff which one you want before you take it. So good on that. Frozen Land is coming to Disneyland Paris, I think later this year in the fall, and they showed some pictures of it. It looks um, pretty impressive. Good on that. There was something else, um, and Frankenstein, and the Invisible Man, and the Thing from another, the creature from the Black Lagoon, all that. They're all from the Universal's old school black and white films, and they're all owned by Universal. Well, they're building a Universal Monsters world at the Universal amusement park down there in Disney World. I guess I'll come to that eventually. There's Classic Monsterland coming to Universal. There it is. So good. It was on the front page. Um, Potentially hazardous asteroid repeatedly speeding toward the Earth. Again, it's one of the things we always hear about asteroids, coming towards Earth, but they very rarely are going to be on a collision course for us. This is another thing that they're freaking everybody else out, but I think if you read the article, it's going to be like 35,000 miles away. So it's basically going to go between the Earth and the Moon. It's not going to even hit us. So it's just to freak people out. So, whatever. A grieving mom is reunited with her deceased daughter in a virtual reality world. I guess they created characters for this virtual reality world, and this mother put it on and discovered that her daughter was one of the. I'm not sure, but I guess so. Strawberry shortcake mimosas is a thing. Don't know what's in them because mimosas are basically champagne and orange juice, and usually have them on New Year's Day and Christmas and stuff like that. But strawberry shortcake one, they said it would have been good for Valentine's Day or Valentine's weekend because hey, Valentine's Day on a Friday, you can today and tomorrow somewhat if you want to. A rescue farm in South Carolina is looking for volunteers to cuddle with pigs and feed them cookies. So they are a rescue farm that rescues pigs, and they're looking for people to come cuddle the pigs and feed them cookies. House hunters featured a throuple in search of a dream house. So you've heard these people before where you have a married couple, and I think I did a story a while back about this also. It's a married couple, and to spice up their relationship, they bring a third person into their relationship who is apparently bisexual, because the third person will be added to their sex games with threesome, stuff like that, but they also can split off and do one-on-one, both women and women or women and man, or that's the throuples I've seen have been two women and a man. So, but they don't get married, so it's not illegal. It's just someone else that lives in their house with them. So there was a story a while back where that happened, and now House Hunters is featuring a throuple, which is kind of interesting that they would go and do that. I mean, it's not breaking any laws, and it's adults doing adult stuff. They're all adults. They're not children. No one's been kidnapped or forced to do something they don't want to do. It's just another type of familiar unit. So the Republicans didn't lose their minds about. I'm sure the casino love that. These two stories sort of go together. A family builds a private tiny village on their property. They bought thousands of acres of property, not thousands, but a lot, like 50, 70, 100 acres of land. The family has built its own tiny village on this plot of land, which includes their the parents have their own house. The teenage kids have their own houses. There's a pool house that has an indoor pool. There's a bathhouse, because the teenagers' houses do not have bathrooms. They have to use the bathhouse. And all the houses, the parents' house and the teenagers' houses, are small, are like the tiny homes you see all the time. So, like the teenagers' ones is like there's a living room, a living room and a bedroom, and maybe a kitchen, maybe possibly. And then the parents' one has the bathroom and their house, and they have their bedroom, their living room, and a kitchen in their one place as well. And they're all close together. So it's not like one is over here, and one's over here, and one's over here, and one's over here. But they're all confined within. They can all see each other, and it's a quick walk back and forth to check on them if they need or they feel safe or whatever. But it gives the teenagers a chance to live on their own, and basically, it makes sense. I mean, it sounds weird, but honestly, teenagers spend most of the time in their room anyway, and just come down for dinner, and when you force them to have interactions and stuff like that. In this case, it's basically the same thing, but instead of it being in the same house, they have their own house, and it's within the same, area. So it's not like they're on their own in another place. It's 5 seconds away from each other. So they're all near each other, and they have like a little fire ring. They can go out and do s'mores and stuff and get together, and they can, I guess they somehow are able to have their own, make sure that they spend time together and stuff like that. So everybody's not on their own, but they also give them their own privacy and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. Kind of cool to take chicks to if you have your own house, right? You know what I'm saying? Without getting caught. But it looks like a castle, and it's miniature, one of those miniature houses. So like, as I said, this house has with this tiny village. Is kind of cool. This might be an unpopular opinion, so we're going to talk a little bit about the Houston Astros situation. Earlier this year or late last year, whatever, they were caught in a scandal that they had been spying on other teams, stealing their signals and signaling their batters to what pitch was coming by hammering on trash cans or whatever. So now everybody's freaking out about it. People are saying that because of that, the Astros played as well as they did. They won the World Series that they did, and that the MVP was the MVP because of what they did. And everybody just wants to sue them, and pitchers are talking about throwing at them, and they're going to get booed wherever they go. And the Astros didn't help themselves by having these weak ass I'm sorry apologies, also undergoing a similar situation as well. And so they're being investigated too. And a lot of people believe that there are more teams out there that are involved in this, but these are the only two that have been caught so far. But everybody is freaking out like it's the worst thing in the whole world that they stole signs. And I'm here to say that I don't see the big deal. Stealing signs has been a part of baseball forever, and in football and stuff like that. Yes, people get in trouble. The Patriots got in trouble for filming the sidelines during a practice against the Bengals to get an edge up on somebody. But my problem I have with this is the main gist of it is that there are people who are watching signs that are able to see the signs the catcher is making when their team is up at bat, and they know that this is like a curve and this is like, whatever. So down and away or stuff like that. So what they do is they spy that, and they're able to communicate real quick, which doesn't make a lot of sense because now it's a real fast-paced game with pitchers. So you get the signal, and usually the pitcher shakes his head, gets up, lines up, and throws. It's about maybe a 10-second window. So in 10 seconds, you're going to have to say, okay, it's a curveball. They're going to have to the people who are hammering are going to have to get the message it's a curveball, and they're going to have to go bang for one for curveball, or bang, bang, or whatever. And so the batter's going to think curveball, so they're going to have to shift down there, and all in 10 seconds. I don't really see how that could happen. That's one thing. Second is you still may know what pitch is coming, but you still have to hit it. The fact is that you know that it is a curveball that might be down away or whatever, might be able to help you, line up a little bit, but you don't know where it's going to go. You don't know if it's going to be coming inside or outside, or if the pitcher loses control of it. You're not going to know about that. You're going to have your own, you have to get up there, and you have to, it's going to be a curveball. So you know the general area where you still have to connect with it and still have to hit it. Now, where's the guarantee that you're not going to hit it to the second baseman or the outfielder or right back to the pitcher or stuff like that? You are just you're trying to swing the bat and boom, it's there. You still have to hit the ball. And then again, you got to think about it this way. If it is such an advantage to know what the other team is pitching, when it's your turn to pitch to them, they don't know what's coming, and yet they're still able to hit home runs and base hits and stuff like that and take walks, even though they don't know what's coming either. And you still have to field also. Knowing the signs that they're going to throw at you is not going to help you fielding a ground ball or fly ball to you. You still have to make that play. You still have to hit the ball. You still have to advance the bases. You can't be stupid on the bases. If it's such a big deal and it's such a big advantage that they know every pitch, then no batter should ever get out. You see my point? Because if you know the pitch is coming, by their logic, well, it's going to be a curveball, it's going to be a fastball, whatever, so you should be able to be hitting singles and doubles and home runs all the time. That's not how the game is played. As I said, fielders do good jobs, stuff like that. And it drives me absolutely bonkers that everyone is it's destroying the fabric of the game and it's terrible and it's cheating and all this stuff. And it's like, maybe, but they still have to play the game. And now you're saying, well, they need to strip their World Series wins. No, they don't. They won the World Series. Did they know your signals? Sure, fine. That's what happens. But you know what? They didn't win every game. They did not. They lost a number of games. They didn't have people who hit every damn ball. And then you still have to go out there and you still have to field. You still have to pitch really well also. And I don't understand how everybody's freaking out because they're all just so mad. It's like so we should have won this. They're still like the Dodgers people are still bitter. They lost the World Series to them. Well, they cheated, so obviously, they should not get the World Series. We should. No, that's not how it works. Oh, he won the MVP over this guy. Well, it's because he knew where he knew what the signs were. He still had to hit the damn ball. And I swear to God, I want to call into these radio stations and say, what is wrong with you people? Okay, you need to hit the ball. You need to field the ball. You still have to play the game. The fact that you know what pitch is coming is good and gives you a little bit of head up, but you still have to connect with the ball. You still have to do it. And you when you connect with the ball, there's no guarantee it's going to be a base hit or a home run every time. It could be a ground out. The pitcher might have took a little extra spin on it. You don't know how fast it's going. Oh, it's a fastball. Well, the most he can throw, he's been able to throw at 100 miles per hour. But he doesn't always throw at 100 miles an hour. So how do you know it's not going to be 100 miles an hour? How do you know it's not going to be 92 miles an hour? How do you know it's not going to be 97 miles per hour? And even then, you can't time in your head, okay, he's going to pitch a 97 mile per hour fastball. Boom, I can hit a home run off it. You can't time that. There's no way that you can do it. So it's driving me absolutely bonkers that everybody is freaking out about this. And I really, really want to talk to sports people, and I'm wondering if anybody's called this in, but they're all like, oh, the integrity of the game and so on and so forth. That's bullshit. Cheating happens all the time in that sport, and as I said, there's probably more teams out there that use similar stuff. And I can also kind of see now where the Patriots are always getting blamed for stuff, and I was yelling at them too. I was like, you can't play with deflated balls or steal, videotape the sidelines so you get their signals. It's not right. And I was complaining about that. But again, you still have to play the game. And the fact is, it's a little bit different with football. If you steal their signs or their plays, the routes they're going to take, and then you can cover them easily that way. So if they're going to call a 3 and out, not 3 and out, that's like a screwball, whatever, one pitch over here, and it's going to go to this guy. You can send people over there. You can cover that guy, knowing full well the ball's going to go there. But here's the thing, though, it's a progression. The quarterback sees that you're already on your progression. It's like, shit, I got to pass it to someone else. You might end up passing it to someone else. You don't know where he's going to pass it then. So you still have to play the game. That just drives me bonkers. So now I sort of have to dial back my hatred now of the Patriots, because the more and more I think about it, it's like, this is kind of a ridiculous thing, is that, well, they have a heads up, so they're cheating. They know you still have to play the game. You still have to hit the ball. You still have to field the ball. You still have to, and you don't know, even though you know it's going to be a curveball, you don't know how fast it's going to curve. You don't know where it's going to curve to. You know if it's going to be up or down or low or whatever. You know the general area where it might be, but there's no guarantee, because if you knew every time where it was going to be, you'd be hitting 1,000, and then that'd be suspicious. So, rant over. Every time I turn on the radio and they talk about how terrible and awful it is, I want to call in and say, no, yes, it's terrible, but you know what? There's other stuff going on here, people, and it's not just that. And the Pokemon Go Valentine's Day event is going on. It's going to go on through, I believe, Monday. Let me check for certain here. News. Pokemon Go Valentine's Day goes from Monday, February 17th, 2020, 10 p.m. So we have all day tomorrow, and then we have most of the day on Monday, with it ending about 10 o'clock. Oh, do I still have my gym? Wow, no one's tapped my gym yet. That's insane. So cool. See, more pink Pokemon are out. So this is Flaffy. He's usually not that out now, so normally. So, but pink Pokemon are out. There is shiny. I forget who the new shinies are, but there are shinies out there now. Lure modules going for 6 hours. Oh, for God's sakes! I'm in the middle of a show. I can't keep playing this. But so that's what's going on for Valentine's Day. They always do these types of things. It's kind of cool about that. New comic that takes place in the Batman animated series world will be coming to DC later this year, written by Paul Dini, who was one of the guys who created the Batman animated series stuff. So it'd be nice to see some of his new stuff as well. Scientist confirms that dogs can understand human speech. People knew for the longest time that dogs could understand humans. Well, now scientists are saying, yep, they can. And also, cats also can know their name. They might not necessarily always come when you call their name, but they know their name. But cats are cats and dogs are dogs. They're different animals. The LA Zoo's first gorilla baby in over 20 years was born. It was a female. So it's a cute little girl gorilla and baby gorilla. Mom and baby are doing really, really good. The Seba, the standard poodle, won the Westminster Kennel Club dog show. So good on that for that. Cat eats a weed cookie, gets crazy high. That's dangerous because weed is not good for animals. It might say, oh, look how cute that is. No, it really isn't. It hurts the cat, and it affects the cat, a little bit differently than it does people. It could actually kill them probably. So don't feed your animals weed cookies, please. Don't do that. A teacher in Finland stumbles upon baby bears dancing and thinks he's imagining it, but he videotapes it and took pictures of it, and it's not fake news or fake videos or whatever. It's an actual. Let me see if I can get those. There's the bears picture there of the dancing. So the bears are dancing. So that was kind of cool. That animals are, as I say, they keep evolving. It's kind of interesting to see that. Let's see. Is there any other animal things I can get into on this page before I get into any other? New Tyrannosaurus species been discovered, has been called the Reaper of Death. I don't know exactly why it's called the Reaper of Death, but is a new member of the Tyrannosaur family, so they were always vicious anyway. A dolphin comes to shore every day and waits for his friend, a dog, to come, and the dog jumps on his back, and this dolphin takes him out for a ride. Again, it's crazy seeing the things that animals do now, and that's absolutely crazy. There was a picture of that also. It's a little bit further down my feed, so I'm not going to go find it for you. But it's a weird thing, and it's crazy. I mean, animals seem to be, evolving or doing something. Or we've just never noticed it until now. I think the last one for this page I have is a New Jersey town shuts down a road for a salamander migration. So the salamanders are migrating to wherever their birthing lands or wherever. Okay, so don't come down the steps. Somebody hammering on our front door. To go to their place of breeding or a new location, but they have to cross a busy highway. So the New Jersey is like, we don't want them to get hurt and killed, so we're going to close off this road till we think the salamander migration is over, so none of them get hurt. So I think that's kind of a cool idea. I went off on the Astros. Well, spring training has started for the Baltimore Orioles, which is my baseball team. Baseball is full swing. I used to love baseball when we didn't have football particularly. But I know football is now my sport regardless. So I like football better than baseball. Baseball is fun to read about, but I very rarely watch too much. I listen to it on the radio that much. And I go to a game or two because Camden Yards is the Wonderful Stadium, but it's kind of a boring game in general, and the Orioles aren't going to be that good for a few more years anyway. So there's that. There's a cell phone with a rotary dial, which is a new thing coming out now. So it'll look like this, but instead of this, you get a rotary dial, which I think is, I guess, more for boomers, I suppose, or people my age, because we remember them as well. But it looks really kind of weird to see a rotary dial cell phone. The Batman restaurant is a thing, and it's going to be opening up soon with Batman-themed decor and food. And I wonder if there going to be waiters dressed as all the Batman characters, because I'd love to have me some Poison Ivy or Catwoman or Harley Quinn coming out and serving me stuff. Yeah. What the hell is she doing? I keep hearing boom, boom, things knocking down. Beer soap is a thing, and it uses Budweiser beer for beer soap. But you can use soap and you can smell like your favorite beer. I don't know if that's the case, but a friend of mine, when I posted this, she responded, "Yeah, I bought this for my boyfriend. It smells really, really good." So I don't know if it smells like beer or if it's made with, hops and stuff like that, and it's supposed to be good for your skin or something like that. I don't know. There's another weird thing too. I tried to get more info about it to see what it was, but I couldn't get into the site. But a Montana town treats its water with beer waste and saves up to $1 million. I guess their water needed some kind of filtering, I suppose, and beer waste with the hops and stuff like that helps with keeping it clean. I don't know. I wish I could have read the article a bit better. But that being said, I like that headline. I think it's kind of interesting. Giant skeleton washes up on Scottish beach, and people believe that it might be the skeleton of the Loch Ness Monster. Anything's possible. I highly doubt it, because it was not Loch Ness where the skeleton washed up on. It just said Scotland Beach. So unless, all the locks are connected in some way, which they really aren't because they're all landlocked, probably not the Loch Ness Monster unless it's one of his family members. So we'll see. Jameis Winston, speaking of football, who was a quarterback for the Tampa Bay Rays, not Tampa Bay Rays, that's baseball team, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, had a bad career record this year with most interceptions thrown in a season for Tampa Bay. And Jameis Winston believes that one of the reasons why is because his eyesight has been getting pretty bad. So he got LASIK in the offseason, and he's hoping that, once his eyes heal and recover in time for next season, that his new clear eyes, 20/20 vision, will be better, and he'll throw less interceptions and might become a better quarterback. And I think if it works, that could be a really interesting thing to do. Oh, are you going to start saying, well, that gives him a advantage over things? You can see the field. Come on, people. This is kind of a cool story. Winds reach 209 miles per hour at the Kirkland Ski Resort in Alpine County, California. They don't know if that's a record yet, but how would you like to see a 209 mile per hour wind gust? I could not even imagine what that is. And it's weird, so weird when a 50 mile per hour wind gust blows outside our house. It howls like crazy. What do you think a 209 mile per hour one would? It would probably shake the freaking house. Be crazy. Might tear some stuff. I mean, whatever's like, any chairs or whatever you have outside, that 209 gust comes, it'll probably blow that shit away. That's absolutely crazy. Babies give food to others even when they're hungry, showing early altruism. And I wish people would stick with that. And maybe we wouldn't have the issues that we have now with the hatred and awfulness that the Republican Party has brought to our country right now, and their racism. But the fact that, and I think I've noticed it before, babies are always trying to put stuff on your table or whatever. And even though they're hungry, they like to share what they're eating. I think that's kind of cool. Another week, another Starbucks story. Starbucks has a secret orange drink that tastes just like peach gummy rings. So I don't know, orange drink that tastes just like peach gummy rings. So I don't know, would you just order, hey, I'd like to get your orange drink. I don't think it's on their secret menu, but peach gummy rings. Interesting. So Valentine's Day just ended. So obviously it's the right time to start talking about Halloween. Actually, this year, a blue moon will be coming on Halloween, which is something that hasn't happened in a long time. So that's always kind of interesting to see that. So for those who don't know or remember, a blue moon is not actually blue. It's just the second full moon in a month, which means that the first full moon, probably somewhere around October 1st or 2nd, because you have to go through a specific cycle for the moon to rotate around the Earth. So in order to get a blue moon, that's why it's so rare. It's really hard for them to do it in a 1 month period. I mean, the full moon was last weekend, I believe. So now it's going to go through the cycle now where the next full moon is going to be about a month away. So the next full moon is going to be until March, like 7th or something like that. So, but gradually things will start, now this blue moon probably would not have happened on Halloween. It probably would have been on November 1st. So, we're going to have a blue moon on Halloween, which I think is kind of cool. A loving dad fulfills his son's wish, which was to have Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th series come and pick him up at school. Kid's got issues, but the fact is his dad was able to hire somebody to dress up like Jason Voorhees, or he dressed up like Jason Voorhees himself and picked up his son from school. I'm not exactly sure how it worked out, but he hired or got his son's wish, which was to be picked up from school by Jason Voorhees, which I have questions about why a young kid would be knowing about Jason Voorhees and wanting him to pick him up at school. So long commutes could cause cancer or increases your cancer chance, which is great because my commute, while not long as in length, time it is, depending on traffic. If we don't have traffic, I can make it to my work in probably half an hour. When we have traffic, it goes anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour. In fact, this week I went in, it took me an hour to get to work twice this week. Maybe once this week. Maybe once this week, maybe. Yeah, that's rough about that. Disney Plus has announced a Secret Invasion show, which I think is a great way to do a story like this about the Skrulls invading the MCU disguised as other superheroes. And to create a Secret Invasion show is better than a Secret Invasion movie because there's so much to the storyline that you need to spread it out a little bit. So I think, if you want to get a good series, doing that. Like Secret Wars would probably be a better Disney Plus series because there's so much that goes on that I don't think you could fit it in a 2.5 hour movie. It's possible. You cut out a lot of stuff. It is very possible. But if you want to do a very good version of it, it would probably be better to be on the Disney Plus show. So they're not sitting on their laurels about that. Here's an animal story I missed. After noticing the lack of good sticks at the dog park, a man creates a stick closet, or what is that? Stick something or other, that fills it with sticks from a dead tree. So he's got all, like a stick library is what it was, stick library. So he created these boxes that have all these sticks so that you can take these really good sticks that he brought from his dead tree for the dogs to enjoy chasing sticks back and forth because they like to chase sticks. So that's kind of good. Girl Scouts set up a stall outside of a weed dispensary, sell several hundred boxes. That makes a lot of sense. And I've probably mentioned that story before, but with Girl Scout cookies being on sale now, it's a good time to bring it back up. Here's another animal story I should have said. Man pets a stray cat in a park. It is soon surrounded by other stray cats that want to be petted as well. I mean, as soon as they see some love getting shown to one of them, they all want it. Guy hits robber at Walmart with his shopping cart to stop him. So the guy's running out of Walmart after shoplifting something. A guy with a cart sees this happening, takes a shopping cart and flings it at the guy, hits him, knocks him over, and stops him enough so that security can pick him up. So that's kind of cool. Taika Waititi, who won the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay for Jojo Rabbit, snuggled up the day after, snuggled up with his Oscar while watching Harry Potter. And that's so Taika Waititi to do. And I bring this up also because this Tuesday, finally, Jojo Rabbit will be available on Blu-ray, and I'm going to buy that sucker. I'm going to watch it all the time. I'm going to get my whole family to watch it. I love that movie, my favorite movie of the year. And then I can't wait till 1917 comes out, which is going to be sooner than later, but it's still doing pretty well in the box office, so it'll be out for a while longer there. And despite it not winning the big prizes, it won 3 Oscars, so it's still pretty impressive. But it won 4. They only won 3. Yep. Parasite won 4. 1917 won 3. So that's good on that. Rick Moranis is back, baby. Rick Moranis took a sabbatical from acting. He hasn't acted. Well, he made an appearance in an ABC show reprising his role as Dark Helmet. And the show that was set in the 80s, I forget what it's called, it's on ABC, but they just did that one little bit recently. But he hasn't been in a movie since, like, I think even before this century. I don't think he was in any movies in this century or TV shows or anything except for this one recently. He takes sabbatical because he lost his wife to cancer or something like that. So he decided to just step away from acting and raise his kids. And then gradually, as the kids got older and didn't need him as much, he realized that he really honestly did not miss the Hollywood lifestyle. So he sort of stuck around even longer. But now he seems to have gotten the itch back because he'll be returning to acting in the Disney Plus series called Shrink, which is going to be where he reprises the role of the doctor the characters he played in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and Honey, I Shrunk the Baby, or Honey, I Blew Up the Baby, excuse me. Those 2 films. He's going to be reprising that role as that character. I forget his character's name, but in a Disney Plus TV show. So that'll be interesting. That's another one to add to my Disney Plus queue about what I want to watch. So that's excellent, and I can't wait to see that. So that'll be good on that. Now, just bear with me a second because when I saw this, I thought, oh, geez, they're remaking another film, but this is something completely different. Fox has ordered a pilot for his TV series about reenacting the Goonies. Now, when you first see that, you don't really see reenacting. You see and you think reboot maybe. TV pilot, you're like, oh great, they're going to do a TV series based on the Goonies. Do a little bit further information though, the TV show actually is kind of an original idea. Basically, this woman who left this Oregon town is finally coming back after having something horrible happen to her in the real world. She wants to come back home and settle back at home, and her life is kind of a mess right now. And she stumbled. It was filmed in Oregon, but the stories, the pilot takes place in an Oregon town where these three boys want to reenact the making of the Goonies film. They want to film it their own way. They have these nowadays. There are these kids nowadays who do shot-for-shot remakes of movies, but it's not like an actual reboot or remake because they're doing it of their own to see if they can do it. So this woman decides to help them out, and that's what the show is going to be about, is them making this TV show about making this reenactment of the Goonies. Got it? I think it's kind of neat. Crocs have created a chicken-scented shoe with the help of KFC. Man claims to have the head of Bigfoot in his freezer, but he hasn't shown anybody yet. Passed equalized, family leave with 7 months leave for both parents. So both parents get 7 months worth of parental leave and paid leave. So that's kind of a good thing. NFL is looking into flex scheduling for Monday Night Football. They already have flex scheduling in the later half of the season for Sunday Night Football. Basically means they move, whatever game they have planned for that Sunday. Say it's between the Cardinals and the Broncos, which sounded like a good, at the beginning of the season when they were making the schedule, sounded like a good Sunday night game. But when you get to, like, say, early December or whatever, and the races for the playoffs are heating up a little bit, and there's a game that's on the same week as that people might not have thought might have been really good or potential for playoff, like the Bills versus the Jets or something like that. And they see the Cardinals and Broncos really aren't going anywhere, but this Bills and Jets is an important game. They might flex it to Sunday nights and move the Bills and Jets game from 1 o'clock to the 8:30 game, and then move the game to like 4:30 or something like that. That's called flexing. Now, the Ravens have been flexed before to Sunday night, and that's always kind of cool. It means that you're playing an important game, so that's kind of cool. But now they're looking into doing it for Monday night, which is a little bit different than Sunday night, because so you were already playing like the fan or whatever, but still it'd be like you're still going to be able to go on Sunday. If you flex a Monday night game, if you pick a Monday night game that's awful, and you decide to move a Sunday day game to Monday night, that screws up everything, because now everybody said, well, the reason why I was able to go to this game was because it's on Sunday. I can't go on a Monday because I'm working or whatever, and it's on a Monday night also. So I'm not going to have the time to go to work and then, go to the game, or more issues than not. And I know it's hard to predict which games are going to be good, because you see how teams are stacked up at the beginning of the year. Like, everybody thought the Browns were going to be great, so the Browns got a bunch of Monday night games, but then the Browns were terrible, and they're like, we don't want to watch this, but they said we have no choice, we have to, and the games were terrible because they had to set up early, and they can't really shift it too much. They're still working out the kinks that they're going to actually do it, but it seemed like it would work that well. If you want to read the Harry Potter novels in Yiddish, you can now do that. There is a Rosa Parks Barbie doll that is now available for you to buy if you like. Regenerates itself. That's kind of cool, because no more potholes. If there's any potholes in this concrete, it could just regenerate itself. And I think that's really kind of an interesting thing, and should be a bigger story. So that's kind of cool. A 5,000-year-old tree in Scotland is changing its sex from male to female. That's something that I don't think I've ever seen before. An angry mom hits her daughter with a sandal from 50 yards away. Basically, they got into an argument. The daughter starts storming off this way. The mom picks up her sandal, flings it 50 yards, and nails her in the back of the head. It's fairly impressive to watch the video to see that. Planters has a Nutmobile, much like the Weenie Mobile, has been announced this week. Mark Hamill will be playing Skeletor. Lena Headey will be Evil Lynn. Chris Wood will be the main character of He-Man. Sarah Michelle Gellar will be playing Teela. Liam Cunningham will be playing Man-at-Arms. Stephen Root will play Cringer. I think that's a fantastic casting idea. Diedrich Bader will be playing King Randor and Trapjaw. Griffin Newman is Orko. Tiffany Smith is Amara. Henry Rollins is Triclops. Yeah, that Henry Rollins. Alan Oppenheimer, who was the original Skeletor's voice, will be voicing Mossman. Susan Eisenberg, who voiced Wonder Woman in the Justice League series, will be playing Sorceress. Alicia Silverstone will be playing Queen Marlena. Justin Long will be playing Roboto. Jason Mewes, yes, that Jason Mewes, will be playing Stinkor, which makes sense. Phil Lamar will be playing Hero. Tony Todd will be playing Scareglow. Cree Summer will be playing Priestess. Kevin Michael Richardson playing Beastman, I guess. There's already Beastman. No, I guess not. Kevin Conroy, who voices Batman. So that's a pretty interesting cast, particularly Sarah Michelle Gellar. So fantastic. DARPA study hopes to tap gamers' brain waves to train which, Nowhere Town, this one guy plays it all the time, and it's like the high scores and is really, really good at it. So an alien comes down because he placed it there to try to find a pilot that'll help them in their war, and drafts him to fight in his war because he's basically fighting in the war. He's doing a simulation of it on this video game. He's doing so well that he should be able to do just as well in real life situation. So he takes him to space and leaves a doppelganger who ends up screwing the guy's life up. It's a really good war. Plays a military guy who takes over his dead brother's toy company, and builds military toys where he uses kids who believe they're playing a video game of war things, where they're actually controlling drones to destroy other places. It was ahead of its time because nobody thought that would exist, but it does exist. And so it's kind of interesting that it's something that isn't really new. Finally, today I saw Wicked. And it was a packed house, which was great. So it was down at the Hippodrome down in Baltimore. So that was fantastic. But it was a great show. The basic premise has the Wicked Witch of the West. Her name, I forget, I just call her Wicked Witch. She has a specific name in this, Evie, I think. And she turns green due to this affair and has magical power, mysterious person. Meanwhile, her mother also has a baby with her real father cheated on. And in order to make sure that these legs weren't formed, so she was crippled. So they meet Glinda the Good Witch, who is the popular blonde-haired chick that you expect. They meet Glinda the Good Witch, who is the popular blonde-haired chick that you expect her to match my friendship, through mutual. Oz and Effie doesn't like that, so she's made her job to go and try to save them. So that's what she does with that, and so that in turn causes her to become evil and Glinda to become good. But they're stick musical, and it's going to just started here in Baltimore. It goes through to like March, so if you get a chance to head on down to see it, I highly recommend it.